What's happening in the brain and body when we procrastinate?
Oh, um, yeah. So procrastination is super interesting. There are actually some data that Adam Grant shared with me recently that people who procrastinate actually um, tend to have access to certain creative states that non-procrastinators don't because they have to.
Don't start
Yes,
justifying the
right.
procrastination crowd. That's a dangerous line to go
Yeah,
down.
procrastination. I mean, what the origins of procrastination are complicated and varied. To really say a single concise statement as to what procrastination is, but the way to overcome procrastination is to do something harder than the hard thing that you're putting off. That's very clear. Do something harder. Don't go clean your like. Suddenly, if people want to do their taxes, clean their room, clean the garage, organize the gym, whatever, when they don't want to write a chapter in their book. But you have to pick something that's worse than writing the chapter in your book and do that for 5 minutes. That's the way that the dopamine reward system works and some of these stress systems work.
What would be an example? Give me a tactical example of
Okay,
this.
okay. I need to write a chapter on focus and tools for focus for my book. I'm finding I'm doing everything but doing that. Let's just set it a kind of a fun example. I'll do anything but that. Okay. So then you have to find something worse than that. So for me, worse than that is anything involving a spreadsheet. Just the idea of a spreadsheet gives me hives. So I would force myself to do 5 to 10 minutes of like real, like establishing a spreadsheet of my expenses and taxes related to, I don't know, some segment of my work life. I mean, I can't think of anything worse in that moment that doesn't involve physical or psychological damage. So doing that, and then you'll see it will make writing that book chapter very accessible. It's a downhill cruise from there. But people find themselves doing all these things that they would normally want to put off as a way to avoid doing the harder thing. So it's about understanding that what is difficult and what you want to put off or do is a dynamic hierarchy. I think you can think of it as dynamic subordination. I don't know if that's borrowed from cosplay or from military or BDSM. I don't know. I heard it someplace.
Yeah.
But
all the places that you mine for information most frequently.
No, it's raccoons and street fights. No, none of those communities are communities that I know very much about. But I was saying it facetiously, but the point being, do something harder than the thing you're trying to avoid. Now, some people really like deliberate cold exposure for that reason, because and here I'm going to really, if I've taken heat, for no pun intended, for the deliberate cold exposure thing, now I'm really going to get behind it for the following reason. People who are really into exercise of various kinds, but not deliberate cold exposure, love to push back on people that do posts about deliberate cold exposure. Oh, that's not doing anything. It's not much metabolic lift. Okay. But let's really step back and be honest with ourselves. The adrenaline, the pattern of adrenaline release over time from deliberate cold exposure is something that's very hard to recreate safely with other endeavors. Sure, a hard workout is going to spike your adrenaline and dopamine also, but is it going to spike it the way that deliberate cold exposure is? No. Also, the amount of a mental barrier that one has to get over in a moment. There's no like 3 warm-up sets, like walk on the treadmill,
0 to 100
pre-workout drink. Show me the pre-cold plunge drink that makes it easier. Okay. It's called willpower.
Yeah.
Okay. And now some people come to love deliberate cold exposure, but that's usually for how they feel afterwards. So I think there is so much utility to deliberate cold exposure. Now, do people have to do it? No, but deliberate cold shower, deliberate ice bath, deliberate cold plunge is a world apart from all the other self-imposed stressors because of the speed of onset of the stress.
Yeah. It's even more so than a sauna.
That's right.
You get into a sauna and it takes time for you to heat up. It takes time for you to get uncomfortable.
Right. I mean, it's a very potent tool because of the amplitude and the timing of adrenaline that it creates.